Welcome to part 3 of this Football Manager 2018 experiment where I've cloned Pep Guardiola and stuck each of the Guardiolas in charge of the 20 Premier League clubs. Well, that was at the start of the experiment anyway. We've seen a lot of change since part 1. Please go and check out part 1 and 2 first if you haven't done so already. And if you're enjoying this series, please leave a like on this video to let me know you want to see another part. So I've holidayed another 3 seasons. It's June 2024 now. So let's have a look to see what has happened in the past 3 seasons. Manchester United's dominance has finally been ended by Chelsea, but not before Man United managed to win a 5th title in a row, and I presume it was with Guardiola number 3 as well. But Chelsea have managed to win the last 2 titles. You can see Belotti playing for Southampton, 27 goals. What a player he is. Love him. Dybala also ripping it up for Manchester United. But let's have a look then at the past 3 seasons to see what has happened. Top 4 wise, bottom 3 wise, etc. Let's just go back in time. So, 2021-22 season. This was Manchester United's 5th title in a row. 90 points. But Chelsea did very well as well to get to 88 points. Unlucky not to win it with 88 points. Man City also doing very well. Liverpool long way behind in 4th. Spurs even further behind in 5th. And Arsenal back up in 6th place, but Burnley, Fulham and Preston were the 3 unlucky teams to go down this year. Season after, Chelsea managed to finally end Man United's dominance. 90 points themselves, 8 ahead of Man United. Man City, Liverpool making up the top 4. Arsenal down in 9th. They've been really iffy, to say the least. Hull City, Wolves and Palace relegated. And the most recent season, Chelsea 2 points ahead of Man United. Man City a long way behind Man United with Liverpool 4th. Southampton up in an impressive 5th place, with Arsenal down in 9th once again. West Ham relegated. Despite a few good years, they've been relegated again. So let's jump in and have a look at the Guardiolas then. I'll just quickly show you the manager movements from this most recent season. We might have seen a few Guardiolas leave. We have, in fact. There's a few mentioned there, so you can pause the video and have a look if you're interested. But let's have a look at Chelsea first. They've still got Guardiola number 2 in charge, a happy number 2. Who is having a great time with Andreas Christensen as captain. Hazard is still the key player. And they're doing really, really well. Competitions-wise, they have managed to win the Champions League. They won it last year. In fact, look at this. Man City, Man United, Chelsea, and then Man United. Dominance from the English teams. Man United have also reached a final. Chelsea reached a final. You know, they've really been dominating. It always happens on FM18. But perhaps it is also as a result of the Guardiola effect here. It will now be known as the Guardiola effect, because he's managed to win quite a few Champions Leagues on this in various forms, in various clones has managed to win it. Although Mourinho at Man City, remember, is doing particularly well as well. Just going to have a quick look to see who they've signed this season. £83 million spent. Biggest transfer was Sandro from Everton, the striker. That's intriguing, I must say. A lot of money spent for him. This is the Chelsea squad now. They've still got Courtois at the age of 32. They've still got Hazard at the age of 33. Still got Morata at the age of 31. Some very good players there. Obviously, a lot of regions will start to appear at this point. Man United still have Guardiola number 3 in charge. And I bet he's still spending the money. £143 million this season. So yes, they're still spending the money. 181 the previous season. And 239 3 years ago. In fact, they signed Ousmane Dembele from Barcelona for £196 million. Wow, is that the world record? I can't remember how much Neymar was signed for now, off the top of my head. But yeah, wow. Hell of a lot of money. And they've still got Guardiola number 3 in charge. Man City, they've got a different manager. They don't have Mourinho anymore. He was sacked. Yeah, he was sacked. He's now in charge of PSG. He likes the big clubs, doesn't he? Emery has come in now for the last year. Hasn't done a huge amount, really, has he? Because he's only managed to finish 3rd and a long way behind Chelsea and Man United. Liverpool still have 4 in charge. They've kept with him. He's actually managed to win 2 cups now as well. So I think, yeah, the Europa League, which he managed to win 3 years ago. Spurs have won it twice on this experiment, but Liverpool managed to win it 3 years ago. And he won the Super Cup 2 years ago as a result of that Europa League win. So that's all he's managed to win so far. And money-wise, you know, he's not had as much as the other guys. He did spend £107 million 3 years ago. Julian Draxler coming in from PSG. But in terms of sales, he's selling a lot of players as well as bringing in a lot of players. So there's a lot of fluctuation in the Liverpool team. This is Brewster, by the way. He's got 1 cap for England at the age of 24. And I thought he would have a bit more than that now. Gareth Southgate's still in charge of England, by the way. That's just crazy. Let's go back then and have a quick look at the other teams then in the Premier League. So Southampton really, well, 5th place. Very impressive, but they haven't had a Guardiola in charge since 2020. So it's nothing to do with Guardiola. Spurs still have 13. In fact, no. Oh, that was a noise outside. They've got 3. They've gone through 3 Guardiolas. They've gone through number 6, who finally left only a year ago, and since then they've managed to get another 2. So you can see here, Guardiola number 7 was in charge for exactly 1 year, but was sacked. By the way, Guardiola number 6 won 4 trophies. He won the Europa League twice and the Super Cup. But 13 has come in the last 87 days to try and improve things for Spurs. So they've really gone through all these Guardiolas. Number 6 doesn't have a club, and 7 also doesn't have a club, by the way. Moving on to Leicester City, number 15 is now in charge. They've had 3 Guardiolas as well. Remember, they had number 8, number 18, and now number 15. Number 8 has retired, by the way. He was manager of Spain, but we now can't click on him, which means he has retired from the game. 18 is still around but doesn't have a club. 15 used to be in charge of Crystal Palace, then was in charge of Newcastle for 2 years before moving to Leicester 2 years ago. So he's been around the Premier League teams. This is what I wanted to see, the Guardiola's moving around and just switching between clubs and still having an influence on the English Premier League a few years down the line, but you know, at various different teams. Everton have Alex Neil in charge now. They did have Guardiola 7 in charge for 5 years and 250 days until last season. But then Solskjaer moved from West Ham and was sacked after just over a year. Arsenal have just been terrible, but they've still got a Guardiola in charge, but it is their 4th Guardiola. So they obviously like him. I mean, I remember when Pep Guardiola really burst onto the scene at Barcelona, they kind of thought that he could replace Arsene Wenger at one point. I mean, that was kind of wishful thinking, but it kind of shows where Arsenal have gone in real life now, where they were being linked with Guardiola and now obviously stuck with Arsene Wenger. But number 5 was in charge for over 3 years before being finally sacked. Then number 9 came in for 2 years and 5 days and didn't do any better. The first one did actually win the FA Cup, but that's it. Number 17 came in for just over a year as well and didn't win anything. And 16 has come in the last 129 days, hasn't done anything yet. He's going to have to do something. They need to do something. They're being Arsenal, basically. Brighton have Gary Monk in charge of the club now. And 19 was sacked, remember, quite early on in this experiment. Gary Monk's been in charge for over 3 years. Newcastle United, Roberto Mancini, another ex-Man City manager appearing in this. They've had 2 different Guardiolas in charge. The first one was in charge for 2 years and 196 days. Number 15 was in charge for almost 2 years. And since then they've had Michael Appleton in charge and now Roberto Mancini. Bournemouth, Slaven Bilic in charge of the club. They had 2 Guardiolas, 17 and 13. And 13 is now at Tottenham, remember. And 17 is without a club. So we might see some of these Guardiolas retiring if they can't find a club, because there's only a limited number of good teams around, and they're obviously all exceptional goalkeepers, all exceptional managers. Leeds United still have Paul Heckingbottom in charge, by the way. Watford, they've got Van Bronckhorst in charge of the club. Hayden Mullins was in charge as caretaker, but 16 was there for a long time. One of the longest periods of time, actually, out of these Guardiolas. 6 years, 224 days. Didn't manage to win anything, sort of steadied the ship with Watford. Didn't do anything amazing, and that's pretty impressive as a Watford manager. Let's be honest. Remember, Watford managers don't last long, and he lasted over 6 years. So that's, I applaud that. Van Bronckhorst has been in charge only quite recently, really. So yeah, he survived quite a few seasons. Swansea City, they've got Flores He's back. And 13 was in charge for 5 years and 206 days before moving to Spurs, remember. So, who's next? Preston North End don't have a club. I doubt they've had a Guardiola. Oh, Alex Neil was there for ages before leaving. And Stoke, Roberto Martinez now in charge. They had, I mean, number 14 left ages ago, and they've been through a few caretakers and a couple, Gary Monk and Pellegrini, of course. West Ham relegated under Kevin Phillips. They got rid of their Guardiola first before anyone else. Number 11 was sacked ages ago, and he's actually retired. I can't click on him. So he retired without finding another club ever again. West Brom, Chris Baird in charge. They've been through 2 different Guardiolas. The first one was sacked after a year and a half. Number 12 has also retired. Number 20 still around but hasn't managed to find a club. He was there for 3 years and 47 days. They've also had Brendan Rodgers in charge quite recently. And lastly, Fulham, another Premier League team with Pellegrini now in charge. I don't think they've had a Guardiola. No. And I can't imagine there's any Guardiolas at Championship level. We'll have a quick look at all of them just to be quick. So there's still quite a few in charge. Still quite a few on the game. Most of them are still around, but there are a few that have retired, and they're all at big teams, really. So they're starting to maybe be a little bit more picky because they're quality guys. Pep Guardiola retired from football completely, and yeah, at the age of 52, he retired without finding another team after Man City. But these other guys, I mean, who does Spain have in charge now? This is the management history of Spain. So Guardiola, number 8, resigned before retiring. So he won the World Cup and thought that was good enough, really. No, he didn't win the World Cup, did he? What am I talking about? He didn't even win the World Cup. Maybe he won the Euros. Germany won the most recent World Cup, beating Brazil in the final. Australia, 3rd place. That's a surprise, as well as Iceland. No, he didn't. Guardiola, number 8, didn't win the Euros either. France managed to win the 2020 Euros, beating Switzerland in the final. I don't know why he resigned, but he resigned anyway and then retired from football. So that's it for part 3 of this experiment. There's still some intriguing stuff going on, but there's a few Guardiolas starting to retire. We've been left with these few that are now at big clubs, not necessarily the starters. We've got number 3 and 2 still at the club they started at. Guardiola, number 4, was he? Yeah, he stayed at the club the whole time as well. But obviously Arsenal now have number 16 in charge. He started... Where did he start, actually? Let's have a quick look. He started at Watford. So he's the one that was at Watford. Ah, right. So he didn't get sacked by Watford. He moved to Arsenal out of choice. There we go. So he did very well to not be sacked by Watford. He decided to move to Arsenal. That's a bit of a poison chalice, I think. And number 13, of course, is in charge of Spurs after managing Swansea and Bournemouth. So he's been around a bit. And 15 at Leicester City has been around quite a bit as well, moving from Palace to Newcastle and then to Leicester City. So there's still a few left. I'm hoping some of the other ones manage to pick up jobs either in England or elsewhere as well. But we'll see. They do seem to just be staying in England, though, which is quite strange. But also probably the most interesting thing is the whole point of this experiment was to see the 20 Guardiolas in the same league. Anyway, until next time, enjoy FM18, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you very soon.